point of this, first of all, is here we are. And what we're doing is saying we expect a blow off top. If that does not happen, what the most likely thing that is going to happen is going to be a distribution. And then we look for what that's going to look like. I want to play another 2 minutes right here for you before we move forward into real time and live. Point over here that we're aware and do, right? So one of the obvious questions needs to be, well, what happens if it's not a blow off top? Because I think if it's a blow off top, I hope everyone gets it right. Now that includes people like Willy Woo last cycle, 2022 only up. I hope or expect, and we'll see by the tweets and the information put out, that if we're seeing liftoff and a blow off top, that people will pivot and get it right. They may or they may not. We have the mental psychological awareness that people might at that point say Bitcoin's going to 1 million. This is the last cycle, super cycle, and the FOMO might take, and I hope it does. I don't mean that in a bad way. I hope that's what happens. I hope that the FOMO gets the better of them and that they make poor decisions, because after all, it's a market, right? And we're sitting here and we're doing the work to prepare ourselves. And as a market is, they're really tough for most people and participants to get right. So I hope there's a lot of errors from a lot of different participants. And I expect, as always, there will be. You saw that pretty clearly mid-cycle shakeout. Will we see it again at the top? I expect. But listen, I give everyone the opportunity during this period. Well, we'll just stop there. So really important, really early on, we are saying that we continue and look for our base case to play out. But at the same time, we're looking and ready, if it doesn't, how we're going to adapt, watching for it, what that might look like, including it being a distribution event. Now, we're not seeing that occur. We're not seeing anything occur right now, except for the current model to be right on time. So we're going to continue going with that until we need to deviate. By the way, just a couple of heads up, and just to reinforce and reaffirm, as we're here today, getting everyone with us, I am not exiting Bitcoin at any point in time if Bitcoin is not overvalued. This channel that's been running for the past 9 years is a really good indication of when this is becoming overvalued or not, right? So regardless if we peak at the end of the year or when we do eventually peak, and eventually this is going to peak, it would have to be towards Bitcoin being overvalued. Otherwise, what we're going to do is focus in on the technicals and make sure that we continue to be positioned from a position of power. If anything changes, making sure that we get into a position, a defensive position, so that when there's clarity again, we can get back into a position of power. With that being said, and this is what I'm gonna make a full presentation on this. Listen, please. I'm asking you, no one share any of this information right now without anyone that's not part of CTM, that's not watching the CTM daily live streams. Do not put this out on Twitter or anything like that. This is for us, but this is what we're looking at, and this is what I'm preparing for. I want you all to understand what I'm going to be doing is putting together this presentation and looking over 7 different scenarios. And I will briefly go over them with you right now, but at the same time, I will get into the detail of not only those scenarios, but also how CTM could begin preparing, if they're happening in real time, to go ahead and maneuver. And none of it is easy. Like, let's just stop right now. A lot of people who have been with us for quite sometimes perhaps it's made to look easy. There's nothing easy about it. What we do here together, participating in the markets, is extraordinarily difficult. All right. Starting with that type of foundation is going to help you go a lot further. Right. And I think right now, as we're getting towards what could potentially be the very end game, having that type of attitude is going to serve us well, because when you see things like this and it's just made to look so clean and clear, well, if it is, that's going to serve a very important guy, including the little nugget that Jesse just found, putting in the fib extension from the top of the bottom wick of after the big candle, setting up the 4-step and then showing how it extends. And in the past 2, I mean, all these things give us incredible situational awareness. So in real time, as the psychological cycle is playing out and emotions are real, that we have that clarity and that edge working together. At the same time, in a way, it's always different. And we just want to be prepared right now for it to be different, because what has served us so well is looking at the similarity of the 4-year cycle throughout to get us where we are today. And we do think that is going to continue, right? That's the base case. At the same time, we're prepared for whatever may happen. The only thing that I could say that would not cause an exit would be if Bitcoin peaked wherever, right? Without becoming overvalued, I would not exit my Bitcoin personally. And if it became undervalued, I would then be leaning in further again. That's all I could say. I'm only exiting or have any interest in exiting Bitcoin at any time if I deem it to be overvalued. With that going forward, let's keep going. All right. And let's look at a couple of things. Again, this is just kind of what I'm going to be presenting to you all next Wednesday, but I want to look at with you right now so you get an idea. We'll start with this one, right? Because here we are right now, and we could all picture that we enter into peak of wave 2, and then we enter into liftoff. By the way, this happens to coincide very well with the estimation that Paul and Alan have kind of brought to our attention in the last 24 hours. You know, imagine this is happening, and then price over here winds up peaking out. Wow. And these numbers are kind of arbitrary, and at the same time, they're not. But I'm giving you concrete examples here. And the first one I'm going to start with would be something that could be incredibly difficult, right? So all of this, if this was happening, by the way, I think, well, I know that me, myself, I would be exiting Bitcoin and taking profit here at the end of the year if I saw this type of action taking place. And this is very much in line with, and this is not coming off of Bitcoin at all, by the way, what do you call it? The fractal that I'm presenting to you right now, but it is something that plays out in markets across different markets at all times, because it is the psychological factor of the market taking place. I myself would be taking profit over here. I would think that this is the blow off top. There's no question about it. And then watch what happens next. We come into, right, the normal price behavior that occurs. We're all very aware of this. And then you see the normal price behavior occurring. So we would be very happy for this, right? And then we would be looking and watching and waiting. And then here comes the bounce, right? Willy woo bounce. It's happening. And then we're all, right? I think that part might be hard. I'm going to get into it intricately with you later. I think this part might be very hard for a lot of us if this was occurring. That's going to come on the full presentation when I get into the details. I just want to show you what's happening over there. All right, so listen, and then imagine this happens next. I think that this would be very difficult to trade for myself. That's why I'm going to spend the time ahead of time now preparing if this was occurring. So CTM has in place in detailed the way that we're going to go ahead and maneuver and be prepared for anything. And then if you saw this happen, by the way, and it can't be as discussed in the bear market video I talked about, where up here you know that you're wrong. Okay, so I'm going to tie it all together, and it's going to have to come out of a repair. I don't want to get into the now. I just want to continue showing. And then, I mean, we would all think that this is probably then the peak of the bull market. I think so, at least. And then over here, you see this massive down move. And then what happens if, again, we come back up, you know, into the second quarter, right? At this, could you imagine, and I just want everyone to be very real with themselves right now, how difficult this would be for all of you to play and maneuver. Because if you don't think for a second, and by the way, this is outside of other theories that we've seen out there, right? Because he's not looking for this peak over here, looking for this peak and then this peak. And so this would cause a lot of market participants to be very off of guard. We're going to make sure that we have the template in place to make sure that we go ahead and nail it. And I want to show you more. So imagine that this was happening over here together. And we're watching over here price rising into the end of the year, $140,000. This looks like we could confuse that for a big stupid candle, by the way. And then is that like, oh, diminishing returns? Are we taking profit? Is it possible this continues running up, that price runs up, right? by the way, nailing a couple of fib points that you all have prepared. And then what happens next, right? Would you be prepared for this? Let's play this out together. You ready? What happens next? Hold on one second. Right? Could you imagine? All right, here's the hard part of this particular fractal. If this was happening, by the way, I do think that there's a strong chance that we would really get this right. I really think that we would get this exit right. What I'm worried about would be us then thinking that we're seeing the normal structure of a bear market taking place, and that this was the end over here of the bear market, and that the accumulation phase has started. And then what happens in this area over here, if we do run into, because we are seeing central banks have to worry about inflation, we are seeing actually them forced to make a policy mistake, perhaps raising rates, and then we enter some type of unruly situation, and then we see the market crash out, right? And then followed by a policy, QE reenacted, massive bazooka, and then Bitcoin, boom. We need to and are going to be prepared for every situation that can occur. 185 likes. Thanks for being here, watching all this. Let's look at a couple of more here together, because the next video that I do is going to be reviewing these. And if you don't think you need to have them reviewed again, you're not like me. I need to spend a lot of my time, and then we're going to look at how we're going to maneuver. We're going to have in place already how we're going to, and then we're going to do it together in real time, right? Whatever's happening. But that's what I'm talking about as being prepared. If your idea of being prepared is, we're going to see potentially a Wyckoff distribution event if we run into a cycle peak, yeah, well, we got that, right? We're prepared for that. But if you think that's the only thing that could potentially happen over here, just because mid-cycle that's what you saw, I don't know. I want to be prepared for everything. What happens if, again, we see the move into the peak of wave 2, right? Setting up a liftoff of event, right? And then boom, price coming over here. Most likely we get this exit very well. It would be very, very easy. And by the way, what do I mean by that? Like, again, this will be next video. This will be next, but we'll get it, and we'll make sure that we get it right. And then what happens afterwards, right? Let's check this out and just get a view over here. If you think that what we're going to see is definitely going to be the normal structure take place, and I hope it is, because with this type of precision accuracy, I am sure that we're going to be able to crush it, but we can't take that as a given, right? We have to be prepared for everything, and we're going to have a plan in place no matter what type of topping pattern is happening, that we are making sure that we're prepared to go ahead and get it. And what happens, the hardest one might be this. What happens if we just see like a continuous, only up, but not only up with, well, this is only up. This is something that Bitcoin Tina talked about, which potentially could be one of the hardest scenarios to play. And this, this could happen. We don't know, right? We have our ideas about what we expect to happen. Those ideas have served us extraordinarily well to be in a position of power, but we don't know what happens tomorrow, right? So we do have deterministic ideas until the model breaks, but at all times, while trying to stay as firm as possible to the model, we have to be prepared for no matter what happens, that we are there to go ahead and make sure that we stay not only in a position of power, but able to profit from it, right? Here we go. This one is very similar to the last. That might be a double. Let me just go ahead and show you more. And just making sure that together, no matter what has happened, that we are going to be prepared to make sure that we are able to adjust to the market and not have the market adjust to us. Do we have any questions today that we want to go off? If anyone has any, but before I dig in this weekend, before I dig in and get into it, if anyone has any input that they're going to share about that, or please do it here in the comments below, or make sure that we do it into I feel like we should have a separate channel for this one. I sincerely do, but let me know. I got a couple of things highlighted that I want to talk about, and Jeremy, all of you are, and I mean that with sincere, and you all know it. I don't need to but I wow, just some of the stuff that you guys continue. I mean, just because Paul did it today, I mean, this is a perfect example, right? And it comes from so many different places at so many different times, you know, and it's all, I think I have Matt's here just in case. Yeah, I mean, it's just beautiful. So I want to talk about a couple of different questions we have over here today. So let me get back into the next portion here. First of all, this is coming out on Wednesday. All right. Tuesday is going to be Cole's collaboration discussion. And on Wednesday will be this one. Those will both be uploads. Cole's will be to the public channel, only to help people be aware of all the good work that Cole is doing. Cole is here with us now. He decided to join CTM on his own. He's part of here to work with us and learn from us, and it's all beautiful. And then we also have on Wednesday's presentation will be private just for CTM. That will not be released to the public. And I ask you all again, please keep that here. Do not share any of this with anyone. Especially, please. All right. So that's coming out on Wednesday. This is the name right here. This is beautiful. Bitcoin exit scenarios being placed on the Discord, and I'll work within there. And that's fantastic. Thank you for that. There was a question about the Willy Woo bounce, right? What it means. And the Willy Woo bounce is something that Willy Woo talks about where he exited the last cycle. And what Willy does is he waits for, well, I have the perfect schematic right here. So let me show you, right? So Willy Woo is waiting for the bear market to be over, the 40 to 50% drop from the peak that occurs very quickly, both previous cycles, and then the bounce up, right? So Willy Woo waits. This is the Willy Woo bounce because it's where he exits or where he exited in the past. I don't think he would exit again because, 2022 only up last cycle, right? And all that could be true. By the way, I spent a lot of time with Willy's insight onto why he sees this being the last cycle, and how I wish I could articulate it all to all of you, and that will come in time. And I don't think it's correct, but nevertheless, we're watching and we're making sure that we get it right. So that will come in time. Dave, the halving sequence and that kind of, we expect, and I expect without question that the next halving is not priced in. And I expect that the halving of the miners award is going to play an important role. What Willy is saying that right now you're looking almost at an equal weight between the selling pressure daily from miners and the selling pressure from exchanges plus all Bitcoin-oriented companies that need to sell Bitcoin in order to fund their operations. And he's saying they're about equal weight right now. So therefore, that dynamic changes, the halving being priced in. Now, what is missing from that is two things. Well, or a few things, not two things. One thing is that more and more volume is taking place, for example, on the CME, and you're seeing those profits are in US dollars, not in Bitcoin. Another thing that is not factored in there is that the largest exchange, Binance, uses their own native coin, BNB, and a large part of the fees are collected and paid in that. Now, the most important thing that's not factored into that equation is that exchange volume during the bull market phase is a lot greater than when it is during the bear market. And if you looked at what happened recently during the mid-cycle correction into June and into July, exchange volume was down significantly. And that's going to be the same during the bear market. So you could say they have equal weight now. And if they did have equal weight, and then all of a sudden you cut in half, right? The miners portion of that alone is going to send a significant shock to have an effect on the market. But if you go ahead and you start them as half, and then you factor in the exchange volume during a bear market is significantly lower, then all of a sudden you're dealing with a much different ratio. And then not only that, then you go ahead at that point and then cut the miners in half, and you were looking at a supply shock. That is in essence, and just giving you an overview of what is missing from all that equation. But Dave, I do believe the halving is not priced in. What we're going to be doing, and I'm glad you're asking now, when we're looking at that structure, we are not factoring in the halving. we are factoring in different potential topping and or continuation patterns and how they could be maneuvered and doing with it our greatest asset, our TA. So we got the Willy Woo bounce over there, JWC. There is so much chatter. And that's kind of why I'm falling back right now, disconnecting a little bit from Twitter. There'll still be tweets placed out there, and that's for a different type of reason. But as far as time spent and interaction going, it will be different. And I hope you all carry that torch right now, staying solid together. But I need to be focused. I really need to make sure that here in CTM, that right now, as we're always focused. I know that, but this is something different, and it takes a different type of participation on my part. So I'm there. All right. So what else? Do you think taking repairs out of the corrections with a proper stop loss would work in most cases post the plan cycle top 2? Absolutely. There's no question about it. We're going to dig into it with great detail and make sure that everyone is able to see it. Andy, as long as we stay humble and stay sharp, right? Because there's nothing, like rule number 1, there's nothing easy about it. Peter, that's what's, I mean, this is what's amazing. It's just everyone here having that type of, let's call it training, right? That type of foundational training that goes ahead and gives them the ability to become giants themselves. And then we have the hive mind buzzing around. Of course, time to time, the truth is that then other people decide that, you know what, they have other things that they would like to pursue and do, maybe start a newsletter, blah, blah, blah. Jordan, I would like to learn on the technicalities of how to exit and where to exit. Is there a way to have specific questions answers? I mean, we do it every day. You just ask the question, right? And it was answered. But you want to go to the Exiting Bitcoin playlist, Curry, and start there and watch each, and there's about 7 or 8 videos, and you want to watch each of them. So it's going to take you a week if you could do one a day. And that's where you want to begin. Okay? And that's where you have to begin. And after you watch those videos, the question that you have now will most likely, first of all, be answered and or bring up better ones. So start there. You could go, I don't have it pulled up on here right now, but if you go to the Discord and type in Exiting Bitcoin, you can pull up the playlist. Like I said at the very beginning, this is an important one. It's important for us to maintain and realize that this continues to be the base case. This is what we have to stay firm in until at any point we see things are behaving differently. And then we have to make sure that no matter what's happening, we are going to be there. And I have to tell you, it's not only, this could be, if you knew this was happening ahead of time, by the way, this would be enormously profitable. These type of pushes and these type of waves and extensions. But if you think for a second that it's easy in real time, you're deluding yourself and you're setting yourself up for failure. It's extraordinarily difficult. I do believe that together, with the time that we put in, that we have the best chance of whatever's thrown at us, making sure we get it right. I say this with the greatest sincerity. I am so proud, impressed, in awe of all of you and everything that you're doing. And it is an absolute honor and privilege to be standing here with you all, navigating this once-in-a-lifetime moment together in order to accomplish extraordinary, legendary, epic things and take as many with us as we can, you know?